You tuned in to the Soulful Conversations Podcast, featuring a panel of life coaches and spiritual leaders from around the world discussing how to handle some of life's greatest challenges. We will be sharing stories of courage, hope, and inspiration with you, our faithful listeners, to live your happiest and most fulfilling life full of purpose and passion for yourself, your families, and the world. We are here to be the change we wish to see. Let the conversation begin.
Portia Booker is in the house today, and I'm going to interrupt Dawn Earhart-Whitty to do the introduction of the Soulful Conversations Podcast, where we talk about all things through the soul, all things great. And here we go. Back to you, Dawn.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Portia. We let a real professional do our intro today. Thank you for that. As Portia said, welcome to the Soulful Conversations Podcast. We are thrilled that you are here today. This is our third episode. Thank you for watching our first two episodes. They have been very wonderfully received and warmly received. So we're really excited to continue these conversations with people from around the world, light workers, healers, life coaches, people who want to make the world a better place by being the change they see in it. So today we're going to be talking about mental health and dealing with some of the things: anxiety, depression, worry, self-doubt, limiting beliefs. You know, we've all had experienced some of those in one form or another. So today we're going to be having a frank, candid discussion about that, and hopefully we will leave you with some inspiration and some ways to address these challenges when they come up in your own life. So I am going to let Stephanie go next, and then Portia, you can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then Kunle, all the way from Nigeria, is going to round out this panel today. Steph.
Hello, welcome everybody to Soulful Conversations. I'm so excited today because this is a very important topic that we're going to be discussing. And what greater guest than we have on today than Portia and Kunle. I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear what we all have to say, and welcome, and just join in.
Ooh, you don't got to tell me twice. Thank you, Stephanie and Dawn, for inviting me on. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Portia Booker, is known as Portia the Producer. I'm the executive producer of Grew with Portia Talk Radio Show, established in 2019. After I dealt with my own mental health, I needed an outlet to really share my story and encourage other people to show them that having a mental health condition does not limit you from having a beautiful life. So that's what I'm here to do, is to provide hope, inspiration, and show you that your mental health is definitely your superpower. Thank you so much.
Wow, so wonderful, so wonderful. My name is Kunle Pelemo. They call me KP, and whenever I am on any platform this way, I say KP in the building, and I am so glad to be in the building alongside Dawn and Stephanie and then Portia to discuss a topic near and dear to my heart, which is mental health, because absolutely this is one of the things I do in Nigeria, in Africa, and across the world entirely, creating mental health related conversation and suicide prevention and wellness generally, in order for everybody to understand how important and how vital it is to our overall well-being. 360 degrees wellness without mental health is nothing. And that's what we're in here today to talk about.
Yes, I agree with that, Kunle. 365 for mental health. Yes.
Thank you both so much. You know, I wanted to go to Stephanie to start this conversation off, because Stephanie, this was a podcast you did the other day, the Dr. Mom Show, which was amazing. Two of you are both, you know, two of my favorite people. And you said a description about mental health and depression and things like that with the analogy you gave. Could you share that again? Because I thought that was so brilliant, the way you put that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I was just, you know, most of the time when we go around and we are a little depressed or we're not feeling good, someone can ask, oh, how are you today? And you'll say, oh, I'm fine. You know, it's just that general answer that we give when sometimes we're really not. And what I was explaining on that is that, you know, we look at these people and we can't tell, you know, unless they tell us, we don't know. So the analogy that I give is that, you know, if someone were to break a bone, break their arm, and they went to the hospital and it was put in a sling and they get the x-ray and everything. And then other people can look at you and tell that you have a broken arm, that there's something wrong. But when we have a mental illness or something's going on inside that we're not sharing with the world, it's not visibly seen. And so that was just the analogy that I was given, that, you know, we sometimes, if you see someone that you think is down or depressed, just ask them, hey, how are you doing today? Is there anything I can help you with? Let's talk. You know, because talking usually will bring it out, even if they're just in that I'm fine mode. Usually after talking with them a little bit, it'll come out. So that was just my analogy on, you know, being able to see when someone's physically injured versus that depression.
I want to add to what Stephanie said, Dawn, because coming from somebody who's dealt with their own mental health for several years, I was that person who would just say, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. I don't know if it's a woman thing, but I know that we're just so accustomed to saying we're all fine, we're fine, okay, fine and dandy, but really it's all about the tone. I used to say it in such a downward tone, but we're so accustomed to not looking or seeing, so most people wouldn't even pick that up. You just say, oh, I'm fine, and we just keep going. So I definitely agree with what Stephanie said, that when it comes to mental health, it's invisible. It really is invisible unless you take the time to really listen and say, oh, are you really fine? Like, do you want to talk about what's really going on? So it's really being intuitive, listening, and also opening yourself up for that vulnerability to help somebody. That's what I just wanted to add.
Yeah, I think I might as well jump on that as well, because this is also one of the conversations that I do create with people as well. And absolutely spot on what Steph and Portia just spoke about. And one thing I just want to say as well is the fact that we need to take asking the question, how are you doing, beyond mere mannerism? Because when we ask people, we already want to hear from them, you know, an answer that had also been programmed, which is, I'm fine. You know, we're not even asking because we care. And so that will also prevent some people to give us the answer that has to do with what what they really are going through, what their current realities are. So if we ask empathetically, you ask because you care. You're not just asking because you want a response, because you want to hear I'm fine, which is just like, you know, the mannerism with everybody. Then we'll begin to now see whereby people will come up, open up, and talk about what they're going through the more. Yeah.
We listen with the anticipation to talk most of the time. I gotta say that. Unfortunately, like you said, Kunle, we're just so programmed and conditioned to just give a generic response instead of really digesting what was said to us, like, oh, are you really fine? I mean, I'm thankful that I've built my self-awareness enough to when somebody just passes me a generic answer, I'm like, hold on, are you sure? Like, do you want to elaborate more on what's going on? And if they don't, I understand. But I'm taking that initiative because I'm genuinely concerned about you. It's not about me. It's about you. And I think we have to almost change the narrative around that, because I think some people often are under the impression that what's to this, there's more to this, like tit for tat ordeal, instead of, yes, somebody genuinely cares about your well-being. That's why I'm asking.
Sure.
You know, I would like to throw in my first book, B, one of the quotes that I wrote was, when you ask somebody how they're doing, genuinely want to hear the answer. You know, it's not just a thing. They genuinely want to know how they are. And so this is, I feel like there's two sides of this conversation. One is being the person in your life that you can show up for as somebody, you know, when I'm not feeling well or something's going on in my life, Stephanie will always check in with me. Portia, you're that person. You know, we check in with each other, like, how are you doing today? And to have that person, so to be the person to show up as support for that person, for somebody going through something, and we all go through something at one time or another. And then being the person who's actually going through it and asking for the help and, you know, putting that out. How would you suggest, and I will say, as a friend, showing up and really just supporting your person and asking how they're feeling, generally wanting to know how they are, that's huge. But as the person who's suffering through it, How do you reach out for that help when you're not receiving it?
Ooh, that's a good one, Dawn. And I can say from experience, when you're somebody who struggles mentally, you're battling that inner voice in your head of not reaching out. And I still to this day battle with that. Like my inner critic, which I've nicknamed Rump Roast to get a quick glance or a laugh out of it, tells me a lot. You don't need to reach out. Nobody's going to listen anyway. Nobody loves you. So really, you have to build your self-awareness enough, and you have to fight it every single day. So even if it's just texting somebody in your circle, right? We all have somebody who we confide in, like I've got you and Stephanie, and I have a plethora of other soul family that I reach out to when I'm really in that boat. And you have to really go against that. You have to put in the effort, even if it's hard, even if it's just sending a text message saying, hey, how are you doing? Hey, can you talk for a minute? Say something. You have to get it out of your system somehow, even if you just take a piece of paper and write out one word. That has helped me a lot. And then also being aware of triggers. Like when you get a response back from somebody, for me, one of the biggest triggers that I don't like, and I tell people, I don't like it when people ask me what's wrong. I don't like it because instantly, like what Kunle had said, when we're programmed to think certain things, when you hear the word wrong, you start trying to look and see what is wrong with me. Is there really something wrong? So really, it puts you in a downward spiral right from the get-go. So noticing your triggers, going against what your mind is telling you, as hard as it is, and getting it out of your system through writing, through activity, something. So that's the best way I can elaborate on that.
Yes, and just to go along with that, Portia, the awareness, that is what is so, so important. Because if we are feeling a little off or feeling down or depressed, and then we're not realizing that, hey, something's not right today. Something just doesn't feel right today in my person, in my soul. And then just like you said, being able to reach out to that person, having that one person and just tell that thought, I'm going to reach out because something's off today. And I just need somebody to lift me up or pick me up or just hear that other friend, and so that self-awareness and then being aware of our thoughts and what we are telling ourselves, because I believe that everything starts and ends with a thought in our mind. And if you're aware of that thought and you can catch it and say, no, not today, not today. I am good enough and I am going to speak my truth today. And just, stand on that. And fight with yourself if you have to inside there.
Beautiful. Kunle?
Absolutely. I just want to add the fact that we also as individuals need to be willing to receive help. A lot of us, sometimes we feel we give and we give and we give. We do not position ourselves in that posture of receiving from people. And that's why we get sucked out that we until we are empty. I mean, a whole lot of people have had that mentality, creating that facade of, yeah, it's all good at all time. You're smiling, even though deep on the inside of you, there are a lot of things going wrong. I definitely subscribe to that that word that says asking for help is not a sign of weakness. We need to reprogram our mindset to know that it is not weak to speak. It is not weak to share what you're going through with people, no matter how strong you seem to be. So in those times, that will change and, reprogram your mind to really reposition yourself and position yourself to receiving help also whenever you are having your downtime.
Yes, perfectly said.
I agree.
Courage is asking out. Definitely takes courage to ask out.
Ooh, I know that all too well. I do. When it comes to asking for help, I struggled with that a long time because I was so ashamed of saying what I was going through. I mean, openly sharing with somebody that you hear voices in your head, they look at you like, hey, you need to be admitted. But it's normal. It is my normal when I hear that stuff. And it's up to me to either entertain that thought or figure out a way to get it out of my system, like what Stephanie said, catching it early. So for me, asking for help has been the most liberating thing. It has freed me from shame, guilt, and I'm openly sharing my story about what I have to help other people and encourage you to reach out for help, because it is out there. The only reason why we're ashamed is because we're silent. What gives shame power is silence. So why not open up, have other people hear you and really see what you're going through? It's nothing wrong with asking for.
Yes. I mean, breaking the stigma about, being able to ask for help is so important, because people feel like, well, if I do tell them that I'm a little suicidal or whatever that may be, people are going to judge me. And, just to have that safe place to go where you're not being judged and you can be heard and you can be seen. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to bring more of, is to let you know that it's okay. We all struggle on a, daily basis sometimes, and it's okay. Please reach out. It's so important.
Asking for help is definitely something that I've struggled with my whole life. But Kunle, I want to ask you this. Do you think men have a more difficult time reaching out and asking for help when it comes to mental health issues?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have, and it is not our fault, no doubt about it, because if you look at statistics, even though I might not be able to wrap my head around the stats right now, but I am so sure that a large number of men prefer to stay on their own to see if they could weather the storm on their own without even reaching out to people. And that's as a result of what they have grown to seeing their parents do. And it had become a culture over a period of time. And that's what the society had conditioned them. I mean, in a simple term, they call it, masculine toxicity. I mean, toxic masculinity. When people tell you that you have to man up, you have to be strong enough, you don't have to cry, you don't have to show your emotions, you don't have to let even a woman know that you're not strong enough. So why should you tell people that you are having anxiety, that you are fearful, you're going through what you're going through? And these had really created a whole lot of issues amongst our men, because they fail to really speak up, because they want to show and they want to remain in that box that the society had put them over a period of time. It is toxic, and it's something that we should look into and stop doing over a period of time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm just going to chime in on that once more, because, as I raised a son, and if he would hurt himself, I'd say, you're okay. You're tough. You're strong. You're a man. You're going to be a man. And, don't cry. And not saying that I only did that with my son, but that's the generation, that we think that men are supposed to be strong and tough and not cry. And that's not true. You have feelings too. You have emotions. You're a human being. And so, that's another thing that is very important to get this out, that men, it's okay to cry. It's okay.
Yes. And Stephanie, I want to add to that. I grew up in a house with all boys. So what Kunle and what you were saying about the whole man up thing, that was expected of me growing up, because I grew up with all boys, playing sports. So if I got hurt, I had to suck it up. I couldn't cry. You get teased. And so I definitely can resonate well with that, growing up with that from a little girl. And even still now, I struggle with allowing myself to feel emotions or show my emotions. Like crying is kind of a battle, like what you mentioned, Stephanie, about, battling your inner critic. My inner critic tells me, oh no, you can't cry. That's not allowed. And I have to go against that and allow myself to feel. So to your point, Kunle, we have to change the narrative around the way that we tell people to adult or, quote unquote, handle their own business, because I agree that man up, it just does not work. We're humans, we're people who have feelings, and we're allowed to feel. And I think more men would be wholer if they're allowed to really express themselves authentically and honestly.
Absolutely. So I'm going to change the direction a little bit here, but have you ever been in a situation where there's about you that nobody gets, and people are like, why are you like this? And then you see something on social media, I know, or you hear somebody say something and you're like, oh my gosh, they get me. I'm not the only one like this. There's somebody else out here. There are people out there that think like I do, or that see the world in the way I do. When you find those people, those are your tribe. So sometimes we go to people who are looking at us like that way instead of going to our tribe. And I think that that's like the support system we all need to find in our life, whether it's one person or two people or 100. Find the people that get you, because they're not going to judge you, and they're not going to be like, why are you like this? They're going to feel your heart. They're going to feel your soul. And, that's the best support that you can have. Now, where I'm going to start changing the conversation, and this could be a little tiny controversial, and I don't want to get controversial, but, mental health in our country, I don't know, Kunle, what it's like specifically in Africa, but there's a lot of prescriptions going on when somebody comes in and they're having a tough time getting through life. And, oftentimes it's with a 5 or 10 minute short question and answer session. And I'm very much against that, because I think that we need to get to the root of the problem before we start like throwing in medications. But so in your work and in your life, what have you found to be the best practices? Is it the medication? What have been your experiences with, knowing of medications, or, just with like inner work and things like that? Like, how do you suggest people like deal with when anxiety starts coming on in the moment? What would you tell them? Tricks and techniques and tips to help those moments that have worked for you? Anybody can jump in.
Okay, I think let me start with the experience that I have had over a period of time that I've been working in the mental health space. It is multifaceted, but one thing that we need to know is the fact that we want to, provide solution to people, and then we need also to learn about them first. One thing I used to tell people that either as a counselor or you're a coach, you're listening to people. I mean, you first and foremost create a free space whereby people can even come and, unbottle whatever they are going through. That's a healing on its own, because most of us want to listen to judge people. Yeah, why did you do that? Why have you done that? And then we compound the problem that those people are going through. Number one thing is to just create a free space. Some people, all they need is just a shoulder to cry on, just cry and cry and cry. I mean, and after a while, they will come back to their normal self, and then they'll be whole again. So we need to just be gentle on ourselves the more, learn people based on the individual differences that exist. What works for Portia might not work for Stephanie. And that's why it's important that we don't really create a box around this particular thing. Let everybody feel their feelings, and let everybody know the fact that, yeah, your feelings are valid, and you have to also go through them as you do that. So, for example, in Africa now, over a period of time, we've associated mental health related issues to, spiritism, or people who go through them are pushed into a secluded place. And some of them are just going through unnecessary suffering, because people feel like it's like the spirit world that are casting a spell on them, that they are going through what they're going through. But now the narratives are changing, even beyond the orthodox medicine, beyond taking medication. There are strategies of, it might just be you distressing your body after going through a whole lot of, stress on a daily basis. It might be periodical distressing your body that will just help you, and you don't even need any other thing. These are some of the things that we could get people exposed to in order to help them create a better support system for them as well.
I agree, Kunle. I love what you just mentioned about the free space for people to just vent, be themselves. I think a lot of times when people don't trust, when they've been, and I can say from experience, like I know I'm not going to get controversial here when it comes to medicine versus holistic, because I've done both. Like, knock on wood, I can say I've been medicine free for almost 3 years, considering that I have bipolar disorder. But in the beginning, yes, I was one of those people who did take medication, a cocktail of them every single day. And what I found was that the medications for me would only allow me to feel every emotion to a percentage. So I would only be able to feel 70% of happiness, 60% of sadness, maybe 30% of joy. So everything was not all the way that I'm used to experiencing things, until I went the holistic route. And now I'm able to fully feel. Now I'm able to fully experience life, versus when I did take medication. And I'm not saying, for people who do take medicine, go with what your prescriber recommends for you. And if you feel that maybe your prescriber is not the right person for you, have a conversation with them, see what kind of alternatives they can work out with you. But when I went holistic, that's when I truly started living. So for me, it really started with my breath work, really taking time to be quiet, listening to my lungs, listening to how I'm breathing. Like, when I would have anxiety attacks, it felt like my heart was going to burst through my chest at one point. Or when I get depressed, I feel it physically. It starts with my wrist. My wrists start to ache like I have arthritis. So really just listening to your body, listening to yourself. And then once you kind of learn that, figuring out what works best for you, whether it is, going with a prescriber or going the holistic route like me, where I've changed my whole diet around to really having a lifestyle where I'm able to thrive without certain things that maybe some people need. So once again, providing that free space where people can, openly share what they're going through, and then finding what works for you. If you have a coach that can pour into you, that's great. Just really finding that regimen that really fits for your lifestyle.
The hurt, unless we can sit with it fully, like Portia said, with our holistic mind and body, and be able to really deal with it, we're dealing with it. If we take medication, I think that it numbs out a lot of things, and it keeps us from actually going within. Because when we go within is where we find those true answers and the true resolutions for what it may be. So I know in my son's case, he was put on Ritalin at 4 years old, and I think that it just caused a bombarding, more complications than if we could have just sit and dealt with it holistically. So I just wanted to bring that point into the conversation.
When it comes to medication, I think I described it to you, Stephanie, how I said medication, the way I see it, is it's like a shield with thorns on the inside, right? You're protecting everybody else on the outside from the angry outburst, from the depressed episodes, from the late night phone calls, the erratic behavior. But internally, those thorns are stabbing you because the root is not being addressed. The root is not being healed. It's being masked by, this cocktail of medicine that keeps you stable. But how stable really are you, truthfully? If you're not able to feel and enjoy life. I mean, I've shared this openly on my show that I was just existing for 3 years of my life. For 36 months, I just existed. It's like that commercial that you see on YouTube for one of the medications. I can't remember which one it is, but it's for depression. And it shows the person who's red is the one who's struggling mentally. And they're amongst a whole community of blue people. So they're the only oddball. That's how I was for 3 years. Even when I was around people I loved, my family, everything, they couldn't understand that I was just there. I was not able to live. Really, I was just a corpse walking. So I can definitely agree that the approach needs to change when it comes to prescribing medication. I think there needs to be maybe a few visits to really get to the root, and maybe it can be alleviated with just some lifestyle changes potentially, and not just so much the shoving of a cocktail of medicine like what I went through.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if I could just add to that as well. I mean, a lot of us are left the basics, and sometimes we want to complicate things. We want things to get complex. If we had not been given, prescribed drugs, we might think it's not going to work that way. Most times what will definitely be the solution to our problems are not things that we don't know. It might be basic things, possibly because we don't do them, or possibly because we don't do them well. When the little things that we don't do aggravate, then it gets out of hand. A little, you not taking rest when you're supposed to, some self-care practices that we fail to do sometimes. We go up and down, and then we piled up stress in our body, and we fail to rest, and then we are getting some feedback somewhere, and then we run to the doctor, and then we feel, what we need is just medication over a period of time. Just a little tweak sometimes would create a massive change in our lifestyle, and take us to that point and that state where we desire in life generally.
One more thing I just want to add into that, because if we go to the doctor and we are depressed and sad, we trust them. We want to be able to trust them that they're there to help us, to get through this. But I took my 16-year-old daughter to just a regular visit 2 months ago. And the nurse practitioner walks in, she introduces herself, we introduce ourselves. She automatically started off with 10 questions for my daughter. Do you feel anxious? Do you feel depressed? Do you feel like you've let your family down? It was just 10 questions regarding around how she felt. And honestly, I don't know a 16-year-old right now that would not say yes to most of those questions. And then her in turn was, well, I'm going to put you on Zoloft or this medication. Well, I come home and I did some research on this medication, and it literally changes your brain structure. The way our brains function, the drug changes that. And then I was told, well, if she starts this, she will not be able to come off the medicine on her own. And again, to me, that doesn't seem like that's the real resolution, even though the doctor, is prescribing this and saying that that's what she feels best. I have to then, as a parent, step back and not think that that's the greatest thing for my situation.
Thank you for that, Stephanie. And Stephanie and I have had a lot of conversations about that. It's one of the things that I'm very passionate about, especially with children, because I feel like, children, we need to plant seeds of greatness within them and give them that safe space, like what we were talking about earlier. I think for a friend or for my children, I always want to provide that safe space where they know you can tell me anything, confide in me. This goes nowhere. It goes nowhere but here. And there's never a judgment. There's just love here for you. And if you can find somebody in your life that gives you that is worth so much. What Kunle was saying about self-care, I wanted to tag on to that really quick, because he said, give yourself permission for self-care. And a lot of times we'll say, okay, well, I'm going to rest today. I don't have to work today. I'm going to rest. But in our minds, we're going, but we still have to do the dishes. And he's over there, and we have to go to the grocery store, and we have to do this. So even though we're resting, we're not giving ourselves permission to fully let go and say, I'm going to give myself permission to emotionally, mentally relax too and rest. So I wanted to add on to that. And then Portia, you mentioned breath work. And I think this is something that I've recently started learning a little bit about. And I've tried it like certain times where you start feeling, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of nervousness. I've heard you can take three short from your nose and then a slow, long breath out. And that really re-engages your parasympathetic nervous system, and you literally will feel calmer. Are there other techniques that you have learned that have worked for you in the moment when you're going through it? Yeah.
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I've tried the method that you mentioned, and it does work. But for me, I don't always think of that one right off the bat. For me, I do what's called a simple grounding meditation for 5 minutes. I do it twice a day. So the first thing I do is I place my hand over my heart, my right hand over my heart, my left hand underneath my belly button, and I close my eyes and I take a deep breath in and deep breath out. And I set my timer too for 5 minutes. And the first thing I do is I listen, I let my ears pick up every sound in the room. So that way, when I come back to myself, the only thing I'm focused in on is my breathing, my in and out breathing. And then I feel my lungs start to expand. So then once I'm done, once that timer is over with in the 5 minutes, I have more focus, I have more clarity. And that anxiety, depression, whatever it was that I took a minute to address, it's been alleviated. So I can get things done. And to your point, Dawn, about self-care, I just want to say, I think for people who have some type of mental wellness challenge, whether it's anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, self-care daily is a must. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant of get your nails done or getting a massage. For me, I take long drives. I take an hour-long drive. I'm listening to my music, letting my mind just be free. Even walks in nature. I take 9 walks a day with my dog. And obviously podcasting. Podcasting, as much as I love doing it, I do it often. I have my own show and I release 3 episodes a week. It can become addicting. It can. But for me, it's my saving grace. It picks me back up when I'm really struggling with depression because it forces me back into the present moment. And that's for a whole nother conversation for another day about being present. But just incorporating self-care every single day. And if it's really a rough day, do it multiple times a day and give yourself permission. I struggled with giving myself permission to just do nothing because we're so accustomed, like going back to what Kunle said about being programmed. We're accustomed to, oh, we have to do the dishes. If we have kids, we have to get them ready for school. If we have a fur kid, you can't have the fur kid going pee o'clock in the house. So, we're accustomed to so many different routine things that just the basic self-care, basic self-preservation gets lost in the swing. So carve out that self-care time in your day, even if it's just for 30 minutes, even if it's just a nap. Carve it into your day.
Whatever it is, if it's painting, if it's writing, if it's listening to music, if it's going for a walk, all of those things. And thank you for that, because that exercise that you just said, that really does, there is something internal that it engages when you do that breath work. And, if you're not used to doing it, try it the next time you feel triggered or anxious or, just anything coming up, just reset. It's a reset. Stephanie, did you have any hints about breath work or things like that you use?
Not necessarily. I just wanted to say that, a lot of times most people will think that happiness is outside their self, that there's something that they can go out to get. And, they want the new car, they get the new car. They want the new house, they get the new house. And then when they get these things, they still realize something's still missing. So I just think that, the greatest thing we can do is sit still and notice that everything comes from within us. And once we have that fully and truly, everything else is just a bonus and a plus.
Thank you, Stephanie. Kunle?
Yeah, well said about breathing. I call it conscious breathing, because there is an intimate connection between your breath, your mind, and your body. From the basic and the elementary science that we know that when we, inhale oxygen, it's like the energy to the brain. So, but we tend to forget, as simple as it is, we tend to feel, it's just the normal characteristics of being a human being, and we do not value it that much. It has a long role to play in our overall well-being. As a matter of fact, it's the common denominator between everybody. So there are times, in the midst of your hustles, buzzles, what you're going through, your downtime, what you need to do is just to remind yourself and bring yourself back to yourself by breathing. Because that's what happens. It makes you become mindful of yourself. That's what conscious breathing does, so staying in the present. So all of a sudden, you forget about what is going wrong. You forget about the pandemic, not because those things are totally not there, but you just want to be present at the moment. You're taking power away from the problem and you're putting power in your hands. That's how it works. Just breathe, modulate your breath, feel your breath, say your name while you are breathing. It gives you the energy to drive you forward and do whatever and change your state instantaneously. That's how it works for me.
Perfectly. And Dawn, I did just want to add one more thing. Because sometimes, even coming on a podcast or being on camera, you start feeling this nervousness and this anxiousness, or I do, And so I've just started saying to myself, this is what excitement also feels like. And try to change that thought into my head that this is also to what excitement feels like. And like I said, just take a deep breath in your nose and out your mouth and do that 3 times and your body will just calm completely down. It's amazing. It is amazing.
I want to add to what Stephanie just said, and Kunle, the being present is powerful. I mean, I think so many people would feel so much better if they did that conscious breathing daily. I do it twice a day. If I've got a busy day full of podcasting, best believe I'm carving out time in between. Okay, let me do my breathing exercise to help me have clarity, focus, where I'm giving each one of my guests the full me, 100% me, not half, full, where I'm fully engaged, I'm fully invested in our conversation. And that is the power of being in the present, is being fully invested in your day, in your activity. And to me, that's powerful in the world that we live in today, where there's so many distractions.
Awesome. This is, I know we could probably speak on this for days, but I wanted everybody to kind of like sum up, a final thought for the end of this. But I did want to say, I know that we all go through challenges and situations. Portia knows that everybody knows this about me that talks to me. I don't like the labels. I don't like labeling somebody to telling them there is something defective about you. We all have within us that we have to deal with throughout this lifetime, and finding your tribe, finding your people, your support system, and believing in yourself, and also believing there's nothing wrong with you. You are fine the way you are. Just be the best you that you can be. And again, I'm not dismissing any kind of mental diagnosis. I'm not. I'm just saying that, like, a lot of times I always thought there's something wrong with you. What's wrong with you? Why are you like this? And when I stopped saying that and just started saying, this is who I am, and just owning that and showing up in the world like that, everything looked a lot brighter, and there was a lot more positive things in the world for me to even see. So that's my final thought on this topic. So Stephanie, you want to go next, and Portia, and then we'll end with Kunle.
Sure. Again, I just think it all resort back to self-love. When we learn how to love ourselves completely, when I'm saying learn to love yourself, it's not in an egotistical way at all. That's saying learning how to control our emotions, control our thoughts, and understand when we do need help, and we all do at some point, to be able to feel safe to reach out and ask for help. And so I would just say, our power is within. It all comes from within. And sometimes if we can't bring that within ourselves, then just reach out and for help. And know that there's always someone here that cares and that loves you very much. You're not replaceable. There's only one you in this world. Stand full in that. Look in the mirror every day and tell yourself, I love you. And then become, like you said, do the best you can just to bring that to the world.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes, Stephanie, that was great. I love that. I would say build a relationship with yourself. You're not broken. Whatever label that has been placed on you, use it to your advantage. And what I mean by that is I use my mental health diagnosis as my barometer. It's my reminder to me, hey, Portia, did you take time for self-care today? Did you take time for yourself? You're pouring into so many people, but I see your cup is running empty. How are you replenishing yourself? So really doing that conscious breathing, like what we've mentioned, building that relationship within yourself in order to build your self-awareness. Because to me, a self-aware person is a full person, is a whole person. You're able to not only provide for yourself, but you're able to give to other people. So really practice that breath work, really invest in yourself, and know that you're not alone in the journey. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfectly fine the way you were tailored. And that's why we have people here to help remind us of how great we are and how great we're supposed to be.
Wow.
Beautiful, Portia.
Very beautiful, very, very beautiful, Portia and Stephanie. I mean, what do I want to say now? Just to let people know, when we talk about mental health and staying mentally healthy, I want to just reiterate the fact that mental health is just a state of well-being. And for, one thing that is so valued about a state is the fact that it's attained. So that means sometimes you can drift away from it. So when you drift away from that state, do not be hard on yourself. Don't own. Everybody goes through one thing or the other. So be gentle on yourself, be kind to yourself. As a matter of fact, sometimes we do say that word, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not want to answer that call. It's okay to just be in your feeling. It's to just want to be alone. It's okay through what you're going through because it's a state. All you need to do will just revolve around what we've been saying here. Ask for help, be conscious, be present, and then you'll see yourself now will feel whatever you wanted to feel in life by being you.
Kunle, such wisdom, always such wisdom from all of you. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Soulful Conversations podcast. You can find our website at thesoulfulconversations.com, and we are on Facebook and Twitter, and I don't know where else we are. We're out there. So follow us on YouTube, watch our videos, follow our great guests. These are the tribe that I have in my life. These are inspiring people full of wisdom and love and, compassion in their hearts. So I wanted to share them all with you. Thank you again for joining us today.